That's right. Let's go. Whew.
Logan,
Good
before we
evening,
start the
everyone.
show,
Ah.
I think it's time we change the video.
Why? I like the video. Fine.
No,
All
we
right.
get a
Okay.
better one, a funnier one.
Okay,
I
we'll
think
get a
the
funnier one. All right. All right. I'm very hyped today. Okay. Thank you for interrupting me. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Armchair. Very, very special episode personally for me. I think maybe you guys might know lah. Because maybe if you've tuned into the show before, you know where I'm from. And suffice it to say that our guest today is maybe the best foreign player that's ever played for my hometown club. I think we're going to get into this later on, lah. But yeah, it's an absolute honor to have him on. I hope everyone's tuning in on Twitter, on YouTube, both our Twitter profiles, Armchair and on Avinesh's profile. So send in your questions if you have any. He's a fantastic person to pick. We really want to pick his brains today. But before I get to that, I've forgotten Avi completely. I'm so psyched to meet my childhood hero that I've
hey,
forgotten
no,
Avi. How are you? How are you?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. Actually, I interrupted you in the beginning, so I guess that took away your attention a little. But yeah,
It
I'm
did.
good.
It
I'm good. Looking forward to speak to this man. What a man.
Yes. So a bit of background, right? So in case you don't know, I am from the beautiful state of Sabah, and when I was growing up, this man was like our Alan Shearer, our Ronaldo. We tweeted out like a very interesting stat about him on Twitter. Like a Twitter poll. It's unbelievable, but he scored 110 goals in 106 appearances for Sabah, which is, I think, unbelievable. The man himself, Scott Ollerenshaw, is with us. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. And your check's in the mail after that
Yeah.
introduction. Hey, how much is it? How much did we agree to?
We don't know.
I mean, later on, I'm going to tell you a story about us chasing a bus in the Sabah team bus. But yeah, okay. So, anyways,
Wow.
there's enough hero worship now. I'm going to let Avi get to our questions.
Okay, Scott, how are you? Doing good? How is Sabah?
All good. Thank you, Avi. Yeah, so Sabah is good as always, and life is good. Thank you.
Okay, so before we get to the man himself, I came across this tweet from Football Australia. It's an honor roll. 100 years, 622 Socceroos, your name was there. And when
Can anyone
when I
see his
saw,
name? It's tiny.
it's tiny, but then if I am not mistaken,
So
it is 365, the number.
3-6. Yes, correct. Yes.
365. So, I mean, seeing that honor roll, was it a trip back into memory lane? And maybe you can share to us, how the first cap went with Australia.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's no greater honor than to represent your country. It's the greatest thrill. It's the greatest honor, and still to this day, the fact that I represented my country. I went to the Olympic Games in 1988. I played against Argentina, played against Brazil, and still, I mean, it's not something that you think about all the time, but and at certain times of your life, you think back, and it makes you very, very, very proud. And I've still got friends from those Australian teams, and it means a lot to me. And I think it's a great initiative by FFA for what they did and to recognise all those 600 plus Socceroos. And to be honest with you, we something that FAM might even look at. I mean, each Socceroo we get given a Socceroo cap, and you get presented that cap, and that cap is with you for the rest of your life. And I hang that cap up in a very special place for me. And from time to time, you have a look at that cap, and it makes you proud. So yeah, for me to have represented my country and played in those big games, is something that I'll never take for granted.
So this cap, is it similar to the cricket cap, or is it totally different? Just curious.
Very similar to the cricket cap. Yeah,
The Test cricket
baggy,
cap.
they call
The
it the
cap.
baggy green. They call it
Baggy green.
in the cricket they call it the baggy green. So it's similar to that, and I think it's a great initiative. And I think maybe it's something that FAM can have a look at in the future as well, because any Malaysian that has played for their country as well, it should be looked on as a very proud moment.
Yep, hopefully that happens in the future. So now, just I'm going to ask you this. It's a very simple question, but I hope we can get more out of it. So
Avi, if you don't mind, sorry, this show is about interruptions. I don't know why, but Sivan's got a fantastic question before we move further. You mentioned Argentina, right? So was beating Argentina 4-1 the highlight of your international career?
I remember waking up the next morning and I remember thinking, did it really happen? Did that really happen? It's we were considered a third world country in terms of football. Argentina at that stage were the defending world champions. They had won the World Cup. It was their strongest team, apart from Maradona, didn't play that night. It was their strongest team that they could put on the park, and it was just one of those nights where Australia football was trying to show the world that we could play football. People basically laughed at us and mocked us and joked about Australian football. But it was at a stage where I remember our coach before the game gave one of the most inspirational speeches ever. And he told us that we will lay the platform for future Australian Socceroos, the teams and players that night. He said, you'll go out there tonight and the world will suddenly start to respect you and you'll lay the platform for the future Socceroos. And that's what happened. We beat Argentina, and from there, the Mark Vidukas, Harry Kewells, Timmy Cahills, they made their way in the world. But let's never forget that night when Australia beat the world champions 4-1.
Amazing. Wow. Goosebumps, literally. Listening to that.
Goosebumps. Yeah.
Yes.
Goosebumps.
Okay, now that you've spoken about that, we want to know how you got into the game. Your formative years in football. What got you into the game? How did that love start?
Oh, I was no similar to thousands and thousands of Australian kids where, we're very fortunate in Australia that we wake up on a Saturday morning and we go and shine our boots and clean our boots, and our parents take us down to the local football ground and we play for our local club. And I was no different. From the age of 6, I was training on a Tuesday, Thursday night, playing for my local team on a Saturday. And interestingly enough, last Saturday, we had our first Liga Super Ramau in Sabah. So Liga Super Ramau is where the kids now are playing organised football on the weekends in these junior leagues. And I just think it's so important for the future development of Malaysian football that Liga Super Ramau becomes strong all over the country, because if we want to produce players, we need to increase the quantity of the fishbowl, of the fish pond. How many players are playing football? The more kids that are playing football, the more chance we have of finding those diamonds around the country, particularly in the kampongs around the country. So I truly believe that we need to set up junior leagues, which is Liga Super Ramau, not just in KK, all over Sabah, all over Sarawak, all over West Malaysia, if we're serious about increasing the size of the fish pond and suddenly try to find those hidden diamonds.
Okay, and there is this impression with Australian football players, even myself, full of professionalism, work rate is super high, and in terms of aggression, they are quite strong. I mean, strength-wise, Australians are known for their strength in football. Is that a misconception? Because I've not watched you play often during the past because I was born later than that. But you were
I'm not that old, man.
Yeah.
So, is that a misconception about Australian footballers?
Yeah, I think it's a misconception. I think, yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, Australian footballers, yes, they can't yell and all that sort of stuff, but that's not to say that Australian footballers have not got skill, technique, and the ability to play. I mean, you look at the history of some of the players that come through our system: Mark Viduka, Harry Kewell, these sort of players, Tommy Rogic, Aaron Moy, Odiaboni was before your time, before my time, but I've seen film of him playing. Jason Colina, these sort of players, and that's just to name a few. There's been Australian players can play. They are very, very good from a technical point of view, and I agree with you, Avanish, that it's a misconception that they're not just panel beaters, they're not just runners, they're not just physical players. They can play as well. And let's not forget that the last 5 World Cups, Australia have qualified for the last 5 World Cups. So I don't think if you cannot play the game, you wouldn't have qualified for the last 5 World Cups.
Speaking about the World Cup, a lot of people have said that Australia's path towards Qatar was tough, and many
Yes.
expected Peru to win. So, for you as an Australian looking at that, how did you react to that, and how important was that win against Peru and Andrew Redmayne's performances during the penalty shootout?
Yeah, I think it was important for the game because the A-League has taken a bit of a hammering over the last couple of years. Crowds are down, TV ratings are down. So in that respect, the game has been struggling a little bit. But we just spoke about the Aussie character and all of that, and the Aussie character came through in this last World Cup qualifying game. But I think the coach also deserves a lot of credit. Tactically, he got it right. I'm not so convinced that bringing on the goalkeeper was this masterstroke that everyone's making out. I mean, who's to say that Matty Ryan wouldn't have done the same thing? So, but it was great for Australian football that we got through. We're going to be in a very, very, very difficult group, but to have qualified for our 5th World Cup in a row, I think we can be very, very proud of that.
All right. Scott, I think a lot of my friends who are also watching again, because we all used to watch you when we were young. When I told my friends that I'm bringing Scott Ollerenshaw, and they were like, oh, really excited. We want to know, how did the move come about? I mean, from Australia all the way to Sabah, and not only Sabah, the Malaysian League. How did that come about?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, my career, I started off very, very strongly. I was in the Australian national team at the age of 20. But by the age of 22, I was out of the Australian national team, desperately trying to refine my actual way, in the actual game. So I probably went off the rails a bit, got a bit carried away, started enjoying the good life, going out too much, partying too much, drinking too much, all that sort of stuff. So when I came to this beautiful country, my career was at the crossroads, to be honest. In terms of, I'd had a couple of bad years, my body wasn't in a good state mentally. I was very, very fragile, and I saw coming to Malaysia as the way to basically kickstart my football career, which is what happened. But when I came here, I was not in a good state. So at that stage, there was a lot of Australians playing here: Alan Davidson, Abbasad, Alistair Edwards, to name a few, Darren Stewart, the late Darren Stewart. But I think for me, the biggest thing is that, yes, I could play football, but the last couple of years before that, I hadn't done myself justice. But when I came here, I was on a mission. Mm-hmm. I was angry. I was on a mission, and I wasn't happy with what had happened in the previous couple of years. I remember the first game. Well, first of all, I came here and I trialled with at Pahang, scored 2 goals, and they said no. They said, no, we're not going to sign you. I said, okay. I said to my mate at the time, Alan Davidson, I said, what do I have to do? I scored 2 goals. He said, oh, I don't know, Scott. It's difficult. I went to KL. The late Ken Chiletto was the coach. Scored 2 goals again. The late Chevy Singh came up and shook my hand and congratulated me. But Ken Chiletto said, Scott, you did fantastic, but I don't need a striker. I need a defender. So he signed the current technical director of FAM, Scotty O'Donnell, instead of me. So by this stage, I've scored 4 goals in 2 trial games, and I haven't got a contract. So I went back to Australia to play for my club, and then got a phone call to come back again. I said, where am I going this time? They said, Sabah. I said, all right, I'll try one last time. I come to Sabah. I played a friendly game. I played terrible. By this time, I was very tired. I'd done all this traveling, played all these games. Played terrible, and they said that they want to sign me. So I still remember I signed a contract for $2,500 a month. So that was in 1994. So I signed a contract with Sabah. And I still remember the first game I played for Sabah was the FA Cup. We played against Sarawak. We got beat 6-0 in Kuching. And I was shocked. And like I said, I was at the crossroads of my career at that stage. I still remember I went straight to a bookshop, and I walked into a bookshop and I saw this book. It was called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Beale. And I bought this book, The Power of Positive Thinking. I read the book from head to toe, and I took notes on the book, and I followed the book, and that book helped me so much. And then I started getting my mind stronger, getting my body stronger. And as they say, the rest is history. I had 4 years at Sabah, which were 4 of the most enjoyable years of my career.
Yeah, I can say that it was very enjoyable for the fans as well, because you could not stop scoring goals. I mentioned the statistic earlier, which I mean, come on, like, it's ridiculous. 110 goals, 106 appearances. You brought up positive thinking. How's the mindset behind like a talisman striker like yourself? How do you keep yourself going?
Must score every single game. You get a chance, must hit the target. You become obsessed. You become obsessed with because one thing I learned very early on in Malaysia, in Southeast Asia, is that as a foreign striker, you have to score.
Yes.
You can lead the line, you can hold the ball up, you can do all these things, but as a foreign striker, you have to score goals. So my strike partner at the time, Matlin Margin, we worked on near post, far post. One of us always had to make that near post run. The other one had to make that far post run, angles of the run, timing of the run, getting at that near post beyond the defending player. And we worked a lot on that. That wasn't his strength, but he became better at it. And we worked on angles, receiving the ball into feet. I would dummy to him sometimes. It could never be a straight ball, had to be the ball played on the angle. And we worked on these things. And it was about creating opportunities. And once you created those opportunities, hit the target, always hit the target. At that stage, Malaysian goalkeepers were not so, I would say, as good as they are now. They were not so sort of strong. So I knew that if you hit the target, you had a good chance to actually score. So I think Malaysian goalkeepers are a lot better now. So yeah, it's an obsession. I became obsessed with scoring goals. Of course, you want the team to win the game and win the game of football. If we won the game and I didn't score, I was happy. If we won the game and I scored, I was very, very happy.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
At this point, I just want to give a small shout out to my classmates who I know watching. Noel, Sarip, Charles, I hope you're watching. One thing that we really value as Sabahans is this thing where we're very welcoming. The culture is different, shall we say. At least we like to think that about ourselves. How was off the football pitch, right? How was Sabah for you, like that experience culturally, moving from Australia and all?
No, I mean what you say is 100%. It doesn't matter where you're from or what you are. You can be Muslim, you can be Hindu, you can be Indian, you can be Christian, you can be Dusian, you can be Murut, you can be Kadazan. Everybody accepts everybody, and that's the beautiful thing about Sabah. More than West Malaysia, I'm sorry to say.
Yes.
No, I agree.
Yes.
I'm sorry to say, and that's the beautiful thing about Sabahans. They're very nice, soft, placid, and beautiful people, and they accept anyone what they are. It doesn't matter, as long as you're a good person, they will accept you. They will bring you in, and that's when I come to Sabah. I felt that, and I felt a synchronization and empathy with the people here, and I felt very, very comfortable here. I can mix with anybody from any walk of life, and that's the beautiful thing about Sabah, and hopefully it will continue for many more years to come.
Okay, I have to ask. I mean, Avi wrote this question, so I'm going to throw him under the bus. Do you consider yourself an Aussie or a Sabahan?
I'd say Sabah's. Sabah's.
Sabah
Awesome. Yeah, I consider myself Sabahan, but I consider myself Aussie as well. So
yeah.
So I consider myself both.
Logan, I've got one question actually. During your
Please.
time with Sabah, Scott, you were at your peak, and players at their peak, for sure, they would have received offers from many other clubs, whether it's in Malaysia or other parts of Asia or even in Europe. So at that point of time, did you receive any offers, and were you tempted to leave Sabah, or you just told yourself, "Look, I'm just going to stay here for a long time, I'm going to score goals, and then see where it brings me, maybe in later years and so on."
Football career is interesting. It's about decisions that you make. Before I came to Sabah, when I was just in the Australian national team, I had an offer from Glasgow Rangers. Graham Souness was the manager at the time, and Rangers came in for me. But my national coach at the time was my club coach back in Australia. And bear in mind, I was only 20 at this stage, and he said to me that he believes I need one more year to mature, and so we knocked back that offer, and that offer never came again. So it's funny. Then I went to England a few years later, and I went to Warsaw. I mean, that's a funny story. Well, that's a funny story as well. Back in those days, we didn't have handphones, and this agent called me. He said, "I've got you a trial. You're going to Warsaw." I said, "Oh, great." I said, "When do I leave?" He said, "A couple of weeks. I'll send you the tickets, blah, 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 blah." I said, "All right." I got off the phone. I went to my parents. I said, "I'm going to Poland." And my parents said, "You're going to Poland?" And they said, that's great. It was only a few weeks later I realized I was going to Warsaw to play in the English First Division back in those days. So, us footballers are not the most intelligent, Yeah.
Okay, that was good actually. Quite a good story. Quite a nice clip actually.
Yeah. If you don't mind, before we get off the Aussie topic, right? We got another question from Sivan. Do you feel the old NSL has done more to produce top class Socceroos than the A League? He makes quite a good point, because we haven't really seen, like Cahill, QL, Viduka, and he's given quite a lot of examples. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think you've also got to remember that when the old NSL was on, we had the Australian Institute of Sport, and the Australian Institute of Sport is famous for the amount of players that came through that system. Mark Viduka came through that system. I think Jason Colina, Emerton. A lot of these boys came through the Institute of Sport. Some of them didn't, of course. So number one is we don't have the Australian Institute of Sport anymore. Some of our Malaysian viewers will remember Ron Smith. Ron Smith was highly involved in the Australian Institute of Sport, massively involved in the Australian Institute of Sport. So Ron was around then. The old NSL was around, and yes, the old NSL, in my opinion, developed more players. That's not a criticism of the A-League. I just think that things evolve and things change, and the system in Australia now is different compared to when we had the NSL, compared to the A-League, and that's probably the reason that we're not producing players like we used to back then.
All right.
Actually, Logan, I've got another question, because just now Scott brought out about his experiences going on trials with KL, Pahang, and so on. Those days, players had to go through trials with several clubs, whereas now, players don't really need to go for trials. Coaches go through analysis, videos, and then they've got the instat data and so on, and that's how they sign players. Do you think trials actually build the character of a player? Because you have to, grind out. You have to you have to prove to clubs saying that no, I am worthy of that spot and so on. I mean,
Yeah,
is there a difference right now?
I think during COVID it was difficult, and
Mm,
players were forced to sign players from videos and
mm,
instats and stuff like that. But I think as a club, for example, Sabah, we want to slowly progress away from that.
mm,
And whether it's the coach who actually travels to go and see the player live, or bring the player in live, I think you can use the video, you can use the instat, you can use all of that to get some sort of a guide, but you still need to see the player live. It's for me, it's still important. We've all heard stories about fabricated videos and
mm.
videos that make players look good, and things like this. So I would like to encourage not just Sabah FC but all the teams around Southeast Asia to try to get players in. But sometimes we need to understand. Sometimes you have a transfer window, you have a deadline. The window's going to close in 2 or 3 days. You just don't have time, so you've got to go off video. So, but in a perfect world, yes, I think it's better to have the player come in and trial, or the coach goes and has a look at the player.
I mean, the experience of you going for trials, did it build your character? Like, I'm sure there were disappointments along the way. So did it build your character?
I think it just made me hungrier. It made me hungrier, and interestingly enough, 2 of the teams that I had the best record against was KL and Pahang.
Can you tell us the number of goals you scored against them?
I don't know exactly, but I know I had a very good record against Pahang because I was playing against Alan Davidson, who's one of my best friends in football, and I would love to score against him and then inform him after the game how well I played against him. KL was the same. I felt I had a point to prove against those 2 teams. So my goal scoring record against those 2 teams in particular was very, very, very good. So yeah, so there is a point to what you're saying, Avinash.
Okay, now post footballing career, you had businesses and so on, and you were still part of the game also. And what is it like working on ideas in Malaysian football? And also, you were in a way instrumental in bringing mixed heritage players into the national footballing circle. So, I mean, how did that come about, and what inspired you to do so? And I just want to ask this question: why do you care so much about Malaysian football? To put it bluntly.
Yeah.
Mm,
To be honest with you, it wasn't anything like being a genius on my side. It
mm.
happened more by accident.
Okay.
Junior Adostel's mother is Sabahan, and she's a friend of the family. Her name is Lisa. She called me and asked me, could her son come to one of my sports tourism events, and for me to employ him and give him a certificate for a sports tourism event. I was running a lawn bowls tournament, of all things, a lawn bowls tournament in Kota Kinabalu with Australians coming. Junior came to that lawn bowls tournament. He was picking up water. I would tell him to do this. I would tell him to do that. He was running errands for me. At the lawn bowls tournament, halfway through the lawn bowls tournament, I said, mate, we're going to go and play futsal. Do you want to play? He said, yeah, I'd love to play. He come to play futsal. I could see that he could play a bit, So I said to him after the game, I said, do you play football? He said, yeah, I play football. I said, who do you play for? Turns out he's playing Vauxhall in the Vauxhall Conference League in the UK, which is a very good league.
Yes.
I said, wow. I said, do you have a Malaysian passport? He said, yes. I said, would you be interested in playing over here? He said, what sort of money do they earn? I told him what sort of money they earn. His eyes lit up. At that stage, Robert Alberts was the coach of Sarawak. He's a good friend of mine. I called Robert. Robert said, yeah, sure, bring him down. He went and had a trial. Robert called me after 3 or 4 days and said, I want to sign this guy. His mentality is perfect for me. I want to sign him. The way he thinks, his professionalism. So Junior was the first mixed heritage player to sign at Sarawak. And it just sort of evolved after that. It wasn't that I went looking for these players; it just sort of happened, But it's been some good experiences. It's been some bad experiences. But I'm proud that, for example, the other night when Malaysia played, Matt Davis, Corbin Ong, Junior Edistal, and Darren Lock were all through me. They all came here. Three of them was ones that I scouted, and got them here. Corbin Ong was one where I was asked by the big boss TMJ to fly to Holland and to have a look at him play, which I did. In the freezing cold at that stage in Holland, I watched him play twice, and I called TMJ and I said to him after half an hour, I said, "You've got to sign this guy." And for me, Corbin Ong has been an absolute revelation. He's been fantastic for Malaysian football.
Yes.
So does it make me proud that I played a small part in that? Of course it does, because Malaysia is my adopted home. So Brendan Gann's another one. I was very, very happy to see Brendan come back from what he's been through over the past year or so and score the other night. So, but to be honest with you, these mixed heritage players is also the Prince of Johor. He's the one that had the vision. He's the one that had the knowledge to see of what the potential of these players are in terms of their pedigree and their mindset and the mentality of these players. In saying that, we didn't always get it right. Don't get me wrong. We didn't always get it right, and there's been some players that have come that haven't done well. But I think overall, the mixed heritage players has been more successful than the naturalised players.
Speaking about these mixed heritage players, I've spoken to players like Darren and Nicholas Sweeran, and they gushed about you. They spoke good things about you. Your relationship with these guys, how do you describe them as a human being?
They become like your family. Like I said earlier, not all of them. I've had some run-ins with some of them. I've had some disagreements with some of them. But Darren Lock is like my family. Junior Edistal is like family. Nick Swirard is like family. And they become friends, and it's more than sort of football. And you want them to do well. And it's very important. And you feel happy when you see them doing well. So, when Darren scored the other night, I was so happy for him. It's because he's been through a lot. His journey in Malaysian football hasn't been all high flying. He's had to battle. He's had to fight. And it was nice to see him finally getting the acknowledgement that I think he is fully entitled to.
Now you're the technical director of Sabah, and I'm sure you've got aims and vision with this club. We would like to know what plans you have at the moment. I know we spoke to Coach Kim Soo, and he's got a clear plan on what he wants to do with Sabah. As the technical director, listening to the coach and also to the other people behind the scenes within Sabah, what's the plan like? What do you want to see happening maybe the next 4 to 5 years in Sabah football?
Well, this was for me. This is the job that I wanted. If I was going to come back into football, this was the job that I wanted. Everyone knows that Sabah is very dear to my heart. So I have to thank our president, Dato Sri Bung Mukhtar, our CEO, Firdaus, our team manager Marzuki. These were the guys that encouraged me to come back. And it hasn't all been smooth sailing. Obviously last year was a very, very challenging year for the club. But when the opportunity came to potentially get who I consider one of the best coaches, not only in the country, but in Southeast Asia, someone that I felt comfortable working with, to get Dato' Kim Soo here, it's a game changer for us. Because you can talk about everything to do with football, but if you can't recruit the players that you need, you have no hope. So what he brings to the table is an ability to recruit players that can take us to the next level. Your Badrul Bakhtiars, your Rizal Ghazalis, your Dominic Tans, these sort of players, your Khairul Fahmis. So that's number one. But number two is in a perfect world, we would like to have more Sabahans in the team.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years, we've been using Sabahans, Sabah FA, and we've been failing. So why have we been failing? So one of my jobs now is to try to find a way to help give opportunity to the Sabahans, not just in Kota Kinabalu or over Sabah. And it's going to take a little bit of time. It doesn't just happen, but to try to come up with some programs where we can produce Sabahans that are good enough to play for the state team. So that we have a good balance of Sabahans, a few West Malaysians, and the imports. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is that we want success with our senior team, our President's Cup, our Piala Belia, and we talk about football, a football club, and it's not just oh, let's get a coach, let's get the best players, let's pay them their salary every month. They go and train at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Every single day, myself and our coaching staff are trying to solve problems. When I say solve problems, it can be in many different areas of the football club. But it's about, for me, it's about every day you're going in and you're trying to tick boxes and trying to improve the club. And if it's 1%, 10 1%ers is 10% of improvements that you have made, So, people don't realize that the amount every day of situations that come up where we have to problem solve and solve things so that the club runs as smoothly as possible. So with Dato' Kim Soo coming in, with his assistant coach Rasto coming in, Martin, our conditioning coach, then we've got Norbert, our physio, everyone to do with the club, including myself. We have to be accountable. Every single day we go into that football club and we try to improve things. I'm not saying we're not going to make mistakes. I'm not saying we're going to get it right all the time, but I just think that in Southeast Asia, that probably hasn't been done in the past. And if you have people that are prepared to not just turn up for training at 5 o'clock, go home at 7 and have dinner and not think about football for the rest of the time, but from the morning you wake up, you go to that office at 9:30 and you try to solve problems, you have a chance. And don't get me wrong, we have a long way to go at Sabah. People are saying, "Oh, we're in first place." We're not getting carried away with that. We're not that stupid. We understand that we have a long way to go. We understand that JDT, the powerhouse of Malaysian football, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I've learned a lot from TMJ, and I will copy from him. Why would I not copy from him what he's done? Why would I not learn from TMJ and from JDT? I consider he is my friend. So it's the biggest compliment for him that I copy from him. To try to make Sabah the best that we can be. That's for me what it's about, to try to make Sabah the best that we could possibly be, to raise standards and to have a football club that the people of Sabah can be extremely proud of. And the game against Pahang was the first time that I could see that Vickers Stadium was becoming a fortress again, with the crowd, and they can be our 12th man. And if we can get that stadium rocking with 10, 12, 15, 20,000 people, we can get that stadium rocking. And we will make no apologies that we want teams that come to Liquor Stadium, we want them to be scared, we want them to be intimidated, and we want them to turn up there and be concerned that they're going to come to an environment which is intimidating. And if our fans can help us do that, fantastic.
Speaking about vibe, I have seen you going for training sessions, and you've been to friendlies and so on. You're always with the team in the dressing room, before matches in hotels and so on, speaking to the players and all that. How is the vibe like? And one more question I want to ask you: how did you convince Kim Soo to come and coach Sabah? Because we know he's been coaching the national setup for quite a while. So for him to suddenly say, "Look, I'm quitting FM to go to Sabah," for us that was a shock. So how did that happen?
Yeah, for us, I also am still to this day, I joke with Dato' Kim Soo that I still can't believe that we enticed him over. We had just played against UITM. We just lost our 4th game in a row, but this game was a humiliating game. We lost 4-0 or something against UITM. I went out into the car park of UITM ground. I called our team manager. We spoke about a couple of options, what we were going to do, and he suggested I call up on Kim Soo. I called up on Kim Soo. He said, "Scott, I've been expecting your call."
Okay.
He said it jokingly, and we started speaking. But still, I didn't think that we were going to be able to. After he's with FAM for 16 years, I didn't think we were going to be able to entice him to leave FAM after so long. But surprisingly, for me, it's one thing about football. It's about timing. You cannot plan that in 6 months' time I'm going to sign this player, in 6 months' time I'm going to take this job, in 6 months' time I'm going to do this. When something happens in football, it happens very, very quickly and out of the blue. And it just so happened that he was at a stage in his life where he was technical director at FAM. He was in the classroom all the time, and he was missing the day-to-day interactions of coaching. So our timing was perfect. He was ready to make that move. He was ready to go into club football, which he had never done. He'd only ever worked at FAM. So economically, Sabah were able to make him happy. But more importantly, football-wise, Sabah was able to give him a challenge that he needed at that stage in his coaching career. And the thing that I love about Docs is he's got standards, and he won't drop those standards for anyone. And, it's for me, it's like a dream come true to have him work for the club. Like I said earlier, the ability to recruit players that wouldn't normally come to Sabah because of him. But, he has a charisma. His coaching staff, I know Rasto, Martin, they love to work for him. His players, they don't want to let him down. And when you've got players that will run through a brick wall for the coach, you've got a chance. So his players don't want to let him down. They will run through a brick wall for him. So, it's like I said earlier, we have a long way to go. We're not the finished product yet. It's going to take a bit more time before we are the finished product, but there's some encouraging signs for the team so far. In terms of my role with the senior team, I will talk individually to players. I will pick things up. I might talk to Ong about something. Sometimes he will listen to me. Sometimes he will ignore me. That's fine. That's fine. No problem. I'll speak to Rasto and Martin, the assistant coach, the conditioning coaches. Sometimes we will argue about things. Sometimes we will agree on things. But arguing is healthy. I'll speak individually to some of the players on things that I see. But of course, Ong Kim Soo is the coach of the team, and he has full control of the team. So, but like I often say to Ong, my job is more than the senior team. I have other things to do. I have the licensing. We have the juniors. We have the Super Ramau. So these are all things that are also important for me. So I think, there's more to my job than the senior team.
All right. Now, Scott, thank you so much for those insightful answers. We're going to have a bit of fun before we wrap up today's session, right? So this is the rapid fire section where we're going to ask you to provide short, snippy answers to random questions about football. Okay. So this is a question actually from one of our viewers, right? So where do you see Sabahan football in the next 5 years? Let's try and change it a bit. In the next 5 years, what's the highest position that Sabah are going to be in the Super League?
You're going to get me into trouble now.
Exactly. That's what Logan just did.
Of course Sabah wants to win. Sabah wants to win the league. How can you, I'm not saying that we are going to win the league, but you have to have ambitions in football. You will have to want to win trophies. KL won the Malaysia Cup last year. So, We want to be one of the powerhouses of Malaysian football. We understand that JDT are the yardstick that everyone is trying to catch up to. What they've achieved in the last 8 years, what TMJ's done in the last 8 years is unbelievable. People can talk, that it's about money. It's not just about money. It's about he has this ability to see what needs to be done and the facilities they have and the project and the fact that they're never satisfied. He's never satisfied. He'll win a trophy and 2 days later he's already thinking about the following year or the next morning. So,
Right.
So JDT are the yardstick, but if we're not trying to be the best, what's the point of us being here? So my answer to that is that we want to be the best that we can, the best that we can be, whatever that is.
So the eagle-eyed among you would have noticed that your mug has the picture of some people call him the original Ronaldo. As a Man United fan,
No, he is the original Ronaldo.
all right, fine. Okay, all right. So who's your favorite player? Is it Ronaldo?
To be honest with you, someone who I used to try to model my game on over here, Alan Shearer.
Okay.
Bear in mind that I'm a Newcastle supporter as well, Newcastle United supporter. So I would say Alan Shearer is my favourite player.
Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. We're good. I'm really going to enjoy the final question. Okay. Joshua Wu had a similar question to us. Who's the most underrated player you have seen or played with in Malaysia?
He probably wasn't underrated here, but he'd be underrated on the world stage. One of the hardest players for me to play against was Mehmet Durakovic.
Okay.
He was an unbelievable centre back and a very difficult opponent for me, and someone who was very challenging for me to play against.
Yeah. All right.
You still keep in touch with Coach Mehmet?
Yes, he's a good friend of mine. Fantastic guy. Really nice guy.
Right. So you had a lot of fantastic achievements in your career. Which one is number one? Is it the league? Is it the FA Cup win with Sabah? Is it the Golden Boot twice? Or is it the Aussie Caps?
I think to play for your country is the pinnacle for any footballer, any sportsman to play for your country. Individually, probably in 1996 when I won the Golden Boot, I didn't score for the first 10 games.
And you won the Golden Boot. Mind blowing.
Yeah, I'd scored in 94, 95, all those goals, didn't score the first 10 games, scored against Pahang a header, and then went on a roll after that and won the Golden Boot. So I think that was a good achievement. To win the FA Cup with Sabah's first trophy after all those years was fantastic. But I think to play for your country has to be the pinnacle.
All right. So I promise this is the last Sabah related question because I'm very sure all our viewers are tired of this. Have you ever been to Sipitang, my hometown?
Yes, I have. I've been all around Sabah.
Fantastic.
I've been all around Sabah, and I love Sabah. So I've been to the mountain. I've been to Sipitang. I've been everywhere. So Sabah's got many beautiful places, and the people are fantastic. So, but I think the West Malaysians are going to get sick of you and me, basically waxing lyrical about Sabah.
Yeah. You know what? I don't care because it's about time. Someone has to talk about this.
Yeah. True.
Right. Yeah. The striker today who is most like you?
In Malaysia, I'd probably say Darren Lock. Yeah. He maybe doesn't score as many goals as what I did, but hopefully he will soon. But it's good to see him becoming goal hungry and making those runs into the box, and but the way he plays is quite similar to the way I play.
All right. So you've brought up potential answers to this. I'm not sure. You've mentioned Junior. You've mentioned Corbin Ong. Who's a player today that you would really hate to play against?
Yeah, I'd say Rizal Ghazali, our right back, and probably Corbin Ong. Those two. Rizal Ghazali is one of the best defenders I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty big compliment.
High praise.
Fantastic defender, and he's he's unbelievable defender. I was really surprised when he joined us from Kedah, and I didn't think he was as good a player as what he is, and especially as good a defender as what he is. So Rizal Ghazali and Corbin Ong. Corbin Ong's recovery when he gets beaten for that 10-meter sprint that he makes when on the rare occasions that he does get beaten, the speed of his recovery is world class. Yeah. So I'd say Corbin Ong will be frustrating because you beat him and then five yards later you have to beat him again. He's that quick. So yeah, I'd say those two players.
All right. So we are going to have another one from our viewers. What is your reaction to El Hajj coming to Sabah in 2014?
El Hajj became a friend of mine, but what a character. What a character.
Yeah, what a character.
I mean, where do I start describing El Hajj? He's a very unique man. Obviously a wonderful football player, but he came to Sabah in the twilight of his career. He used to enjoy 3 or 4 glasses of red wine the night before games. And I said to him, El Hajj, you know, how do you justify this? And he said even when he was at Liverpool, he'd have 3 to 4 glasses of wine the night before a game. So not much you can argue with, is there? If that's what he did, that's what he did. But he was I didn't have a problem with him, but I could see that he was a unique character.
Yeah. Fair enough. So now we're going to move the questions a bit global. Who do you cheer for? Who do you support in the following derbies? First one, Inter and AC Milan.
Inter.
Oh, right. Why?
I don't know. I just feel more of an affinity to that side of Milan. You know.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Real versus Barcelona.
Barca, of course.
All right. Okay. Rangers Celtic.
Of course, Celtic. Especially now. Especially
now.
When we have one of the greatest managers in world football coaching Celtic.
That's a good shout. I think so as well. You're right. Yes.
Yes.
Arsenal Spurs.
And Dato Kim Soo's not happy with that. He's an Arsenal supporter as well.
I'm not happy with that as well.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm
brother.
about to be not happy. Yeah. So
Sorry, brother.
Man United Liverpool.
Draw. I don't like either of them.
Oh, you don't like either of them? That's a better answer.
Newcastle.
That's what I want to hear.
Newcastle.
Don's got the biggest softball question. Newcastle or Sunderland? Come on.
Newcastle, of course. Newcastle.
Newcastle. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the World Cup is a matter of months away. Who's going to win the World Cup and who's going to be the standout player?
Yeah, I try not to go with the general consensus, but I just think Brazil and I think Neymar. I think every great player in the world has to shine in the World Cup at some stage of their career. So I just think he's had a bit of a rocky period in his career, but I think that if Neymar can show up in this World Cup and be involved in Brazil winning the World Cup, it will go a long way to him being one of the greatest players of all time, I guess, you know. So, but he needs a good World Cup. He needs to be dominant in the World Cup and help his country win the World Cup.
All right.
What about Australia?
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I think Australia are drawn with Denmark, France, and Tunisia. Obviously, a very, very tough group. So, you know, I could lie to you and say that we're going to do great, but the reality is we probably won't get out of the group. But you never know. You've got to be in it to win it. So we'll see what happens.
All right. So you brought up Neymar and his position in history right now. This is something that we didn't talk to you about, but I have my standing that you are on the Mount Rushmore of Malaysian foreign players. Means that, you know, you are among the top 2, 3. Are you the best foreign import that Malaysian football has ever had?
I would never say that. I'm Aussie.
Come on.
We don't talk big about ourselves. I'm very proud of my record in Malaysia. but there's a lot of other good players that played. For me, it's not for me to say whether I was good or not. It's up to other people. So, but I'm very proud of my record in Sabah. Not so much when I went to Negri Sembilan, but my record in Sabah, I'm very proud. I'm also proud of what I've done since then in Malaysian football. I consider, apart from Australia, I've always wanted the best for Malaysian football, and to be involved with some of the mixed heritage players who have gone on to help Malaysian football with JDT as well, to have been involved with some of these mixed heritage players that have helped them. But like I said earlier, now I'm at Sabah FC, and everybody knows that Sabah FC is dear to my heart. And I'm loving this job and this challenge, and hopefully the club as a whole can keep getting stronger. So this is the next challenge for me. The mixed heritage players now is a thing of the past, and my job and my loyalty has to be to Sabah FC now.
All right.
I have a naughty question to ask right now. Will we see any new mixed heritage players coming to Sabah, knowing that you scout them and you monitor this place and so on?
What's that thing when they take the Fifth Amendment? Can I take the Fifth Amendment?
That only works in America.
That only works in America.
Well, I'm taking the Fifth Amendment.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, we kind of expected that answer. Okay, so you brought up something very interesting, right? Just now you mentioned that you always modeled yourself after Alan Shearer. So my question is, did you mean that like literally or what? Because when I was young, I could barely.
Brilliant.
No, I mean.
Brilliant.
During your my research, right, they called you the Ginger Maradona, and I was like, rubbish. You are Alan Shearer. You are literally.
Yes, there's a few similarities there, isn't there? So, but yeah, what a player he was, and he's hungered to score goals. Fantastic player.
How did the Ginger Maradona thing came about?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was Jason Dacey or if it come up before that. I can't really remember, but it's obviously a very, very nice compliment to be compared to Maradona. So, but yeah. I don't think for 1 minute I'm anything like him. But apart from the fact that I had ginger hair, yeah.
You look like Alan Shearer.
No, I mean seriously, because this wasn't just when you're young. Throughout the years, there's like this doppelganger effect.
Alan Shearer, what a fantastic player. Huh? So exactly. I'm happy to look like him, to be like him, but I think he's probably got a bit more money than me, but that's okay.
Well, we can't argue that.
I can't argue.
Yes.
All right, Scott, you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, when I was a kid, I never thought that I would meet you virtually or physically. Because, again, one last thing is that one time the Sabah team came to my very, very small town in Sipitang. So we met Khairul Azman, we met Suharmin Yusof, we met all the guys, but you weren't there. I think that was in 97 or 98. I think you had left by the time. So I was kind of upset. But now I get to meet you and I'm so happy. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. The 1 hour has gone so fast. So normally when you have a good time, it means the time's gone fast. So thank you guys for inviting us on.
No problem.
And I look forward to seeing some interesting guests in the future. Like I said to you earlier, we'll get Alistair on. If he doesn't return your call, don't worry. I will follow up with him and
yes, please.
And give him a kick up the backside. Don't worry. Right?
Mantap.
Yes.
Mantap.
Thank you.
Mantap. Yes.
Mantap.
Faham.
All right.
Okay, all right, guys.
All right.
You,
okay.
guys.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers,
all right. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.